Alfred Pennyworth, the former M16 agent who returned to Gotham City, has always served as Bruce's emotional anchor, grounding him and providing him with tactical guidance, serving it alongside his stern paternal lessons. As Bane hunts after Bruce in the city, Alfred's voice echoes through the streets, warning Bruce of his approach. Back when the duo had been cruising around on the Batmobile, Alfred had desperately wanted to reveal everything he knew about Bane, but something had stopped him, and that had been his gravest mistake. The truth is, I was afraid. Maybe just of naming him, making him real, conjuring him up. Although he was never able to speak his thoughts that day, we still get to hear Bane's chilling background story and how he ends up becoming the ruthless menace haunting Gotham City. Many years ago, on an island called Santa Prisca, a baby boy was born, surrounded by cries of war and bloodshed. These unfortunate circumstances hint at the boy's doomed fate, who will grow up to be none other than Bane himself. The island natives were a force to be reckoned with, as they had successfully fought off the Spanish, the French, and the Dutch, all of whom had been hounding after the land's natural riches. Bane's father led a rebel group called Cielos Libres, whose flag had the island's national bird on it, a species that dies in captivity. One day soon, when we have won peace, that bird will fly free. Can you see it, my boy? However, his son is much too young and overwhelmed by the warfare around him to focus on anything besides his survival. He tries his best to feel his father's optimism, but his spirit is on the verge of breaking. Rather than being inspired by the bird of freedom, he has nightmares about a horrific, skull-shaped bird that jolts him awake, screaming for help. Years of fighting transform him from a meek little kid into a battle-ready warrior as he takes his father's place and leads the rebellion, his young blood adding a new life to the group as they successfully take over the capital. However, their glorious victory is short-lived, as foreign troops soon arrive to extinguish the rebellion's burning passion and crush their souls. The ones who survive are locked up in prison, sentenced to rot their lives away in isolation. Time passes agonizingly slowly, but his father's unwavering spirit remains unbroken. Peace will be won. They will never break us. The prison is built right next to the coast, and it gets flooded by unrelenting waves at night, forcing the inmates to gasp for their lives as they struggle to survive by hanging onto the roof. They eat rats for sustenance, and this is how Bane spends an entire decade of his life, never being able to answer his father's question. Can you see it? The bird flying free? In reality, Bane's traumatizing childhood had filled his heart with so much contempt that peace was no longer an option for him. The bird he saw was the one that had haunted his dreams, made of white fire with a skull on its back, burning hot with revenge. Meanwhile, in the present, a group of officers is busy patrolling the city when one of them catches a glimpse of a shadowy figure looming at the end of an alleyway. The officer calls out into the darkness, reminding the mysterious figure about the curfew. At this exact moment, Bane emerges from the alley and crushes the poor officer, his enormous fists closing tightly around the man's body. The other men become alerted a second too late, but it is enough time for Bane to swiftly slice up the remaining officers, walking away menacingly. Can you feel it? The ground shaking beneath his boots, the air bending around his teeth. He's almost there. Back to Bane's past, almost 11 years have passed, and he is now a fierce, grown man. He finally devises a plan to get himself and the other rebels out of this hellhole, using random scraps as weapons that his team has collected over the years. Through sheer desperation and a hunger for freedom, they manage to take over the prison and storm out victorious. However, the world outside has changed quite a bit in the past decade, and their beautiful island is crawling with colonizers digging up precious minerals to fill their pockets. Bane and his crew steal the boats docked at the shore, and as they're preparing to take off, his father gives him a mask made out of the flag that had his skull bird branded on it. You are the bird of our vision, of peace. Today is the day. Although the mask symbolizes nothing but peace and harmony in the father's eyes, for Bane, it means something quite the opposite. His heart is filled with hatred and a burning desire to inflict pain on his oppressors, and putting on the mask is the tipping point in his journey into madness. As the rebels reach the other side of the shore, they start storming towards the city, planning to take over the beach and then the capital. However, Bane comes across an eccentric man dressed in all white, surrounded by girls in bikinis. The strange man approaches him without any fear, as if he had known Bane his entire life. "Welcome home. I have an offer for you." Bane's father watches from a distance as his son converses with the strange man surrounded by his babes, and he notices something strange moving around in their bellies, but he blames it on his deteriorating vision. After much consideration, the man in white tips his hat and leaves, a sly smile plastered across his face. Once the deafening roar of the helicopter is no longer audible, Bane's father heaves a sigh of relief, the dopamine rush of freedom finally hitting him. He feels a deep love for his dearest son, who has been by his side this entire time, and he approaches him to give him a tight hug. Bane wraps his arms around him, and for a split second, he is just a little kid surrounded by the familiar scent and warmth of his father. "Can you see it, father? Your dream of peace?" The loud noise of cracking bones fills the eerie silence, and Bane's father falls limp in his arms. Bane's vision of the future contrasted so much with that of his father's that one could not exist alongside the other. He clearly makes his choice in the moment, crushing his father's spine to feel true freedom. It wasn't the jail that had imprisoned him this past decade, but his father's optimistic expectations that had held him captive his entire life. Thus begins Bane's journey into the world of crime, as he moves like a ghost across borders, eradicating key targets all across the globe. Entire crews are slaughtered, operations dismantled overnight. He becomes a story criminals tell one another, a name that carries the weight of doom. Eventually, he becomes too much of a threat to governments and cartels alike, so he is captured and strapped up at an abandoned laboratory on the island, where he undergoes horrific experiments that push him to his limits and beyond. His entire body is flooded with a special concoction of acids, proteins, and cytokines called the Venom, which gives him total control over every cell of his body. More importantly, the venom seeps into the crevices of his brain to give him superhuman memory and learning capabilities, allowing him to hold whole libraries worth of knowledge in his head. Every weapon he knows, every battle from ancient times to now, he knows. Bane's hunt for Bruce finally comes to an end as he sniffs him out, standing creepily outside of his apartment, breaking off the door lock with ease. He bursts through the front gate and finds Bruce anticipating his arrival. The two face off against each other, ready to strike, calculating every possible move in their minds like a game of chess that never ends. Alfred compares Bruce's rough upbringing and Bane's traumatizing childhood, and it's easy to see the similarities in their backstories. Bane gets the first hit in, punching Bruce in the guts with full force. This is all part of his plan though, as Bruce is soon surrounded by a bunch of vans that hurl numerous bat bombs at Bane, and he is certain that the battle is over as the bombs explode like fireworks around Bane. However, Bane's glowing red eyes emerge through the dust clouds, and he swings at Bruce once again, sending him flying across the rubble. "That all you got?" Bruce musters up some leftover energy, managing to stick his bat-axe in Bane's shoulder, who doesn't seem to be affected at all by this supposedly painful attack. However, Bane is on the same wavelength as Bruce, as he grew up planning, building, and strategizing for his island, much like Bruce had dedicated his life to protecting Gotham. Bane predicts this attack and easily takes the bat-axe out, slicing off Bruce's left arm. Standing before the defeated Bruce, towering over his helpless body with his bloody severed arm in his hands, Bane has truly transformed into the White Skull bird he had always dreamt of becoming, going completely against his late father's wishes. Open your eyes. Bane realizes that the bird he keeps seeing is actually a white phoenix, which symbolizes the process of being destroyed and being born anew. With another broad swing of the bat, he severs off Bruce's other arm, as he stands there like a ghost, drowning in a pool of his own blood. Bane lifts the heavy axe and smashes it into Bruce's face, completely turning everything into mush. Bane delivers Bruce back to the laboratory, and Alfred's narration reveals the possible deal that had been struck between Bane and the Man in White. Alfred believes that the charming man had shown Bane a future where the people of his island would live without fear, going about their daily lives loud and proud. In exchange, the man probably wanted to hire Bane to make him his lab rat, and Bane had fallen prey to his devilish tricks. Meanwhile, Bruce is strapped right back onto the operating table as his veins are flushed with the venom, and the scientists poke around inside his brain and his eyes, replacing parts they deem need a change. Alfred also reveals how similar experiments have been carried out all over the world, but not a single candidate has been able to survive the whole procedure. The first one who did was Bane, and now Bruce was on his way to complete transformation as well. The Man in White did live up to his word, as Bane's island was quickly transformed from a war-torn slump into a busy and progressive town. Bane's family always waits patiently for his yearly visits, his long periods of absence remaining a topic that no one dares approach. Alfred believes that the reason why Bane is insistent on making Bruce undergo the horrible experimentations is because he sees himself in Bruce and wants to give him the same story of comeuppance as himself. However, Bane knows all too well that it won't be easy breaking Bruce's spirit and making him surrender to the acidity of the venom. At this point, it is revealed that the entire altercation between Batman and Bane had all been a hypothetical scenario. In reality, Bane ends up directly at the front door of Batman's childhood friends, knowing fully well that hurting them will strike a nerve for sure.